everyone and welcome back to LewisFiction and welcome to Prewriting MCU Spider-Man 6. If you have not seen MCU Spider-Man 4 or 5 yet, make sure to go back and watch them before you watch this. But if you are all caught up, then I want to urge you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers on this channel. I would love if we could hit that goal very, very soon. That would be absolutely awesome. With that said, let's get straight into this. We open this film with Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. The mayor has been busy at work, and similar to the opening of the last film, the symbiote has been retrieved at the start. However, this time it is revealed that the Kingpin has come into possession of it. The Kingpin realizes the power that it holds. During this time, it is also revealed that the Kingpin was the one who thrust the attack on Kingsley's fashion show in the last film. Fisk will have been working hard to understand the symbiote and what it can do. He finds a way to splice the symbiote into two different bits, similar to how a piece of the Venom symbiote detached from Eddie Brock at the end of No Way Home. Fisk realizes that if he can't take down Spider-Man with regular superpowered villains, he'll have to take them down with an army of symbiote-powered ones instead. We then cut to Peter Parker, our main protagonist. Peter has finally completed his two-film arc that loomed over him after the end of No Way Home. However, Peter's journey is about to come full circle in this film. He'll be swinging through the city on his way to stop a crime going down. The two villains, Butane and Beetle, will be teaming up to cause a ruckus in Chinatown. Spider-Man swings in to stop them, however, both of them will be a little bit too much for Peter to handle, and he'll get beaten down and they will both get away. Not only that, a civilian will get severely injured in the process, thus introducing us to Peter's main struggle throughout this 6th installment. As we then cut to a scene with Carly Cooper, Peter's now long-term girlfriend, she will ask him how his day was. Peter will tell her that it wasn't good and that he feels like he isn't good enough for the city. As this scene goes on, a news broadcast will come on in the background, questioning Spider-Man's actions and if he's what the city needs. Now the Avengers are upstate and the likes of Daredevil aren't superpowered beings, Spider-Man is the only one who can fulfill that role. But is he doing enough, and is he good enough? These are questions that New York City will be posing to our hero. This will be clearly plaguing Peter's mind. After feeling the power of the symbiote and what it's capable of in the last film, Peter feels like his current abilities aren't good enough, almost like a withdrawal. This is Peter's story in this film, and something that he will struggle with mentally, and something he has to overcome. Peter and Carly will then make their way over to the Feast Center, where it is revealed that Miles Morales has just gotten a part-time job there while he's still at college. We will get this idea that this is the new trio of this franchise. However, Miles still doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man, and Carly will be urging Peter to tell him, but Peter doesn't think he should. The less people know, the better, but Carly will say that Miles has been there for him throughout the last year or so. Everything that Peter's been through, his highs, his lows, Miles has always been there. He deserves to know what his best friend gets up to. Peter will say that he'll think about it. We then cut back to the Kingpin, who recruits the villains that Spider-Man has fought at the start of the film, Butane and the Beetle, and then ends up giving them both the symbiote in exchange for catching in and bringing Spider-Man. They both accept this new power, not realizing the dangerous side effects that it could come with. Beetle and Butane bond with the symbiote, and we get our first symbiote-infused villains. We then cut back to Peter and Carly, who that night go on a date. Of course, in classic Peter Parker fashion, duty calls during the date, and things go pear-shaped around the city. Carly tells him to go, understanding that he has to be Spider-Man. Peter puts on the costume and swings over to the scene where he encounters both symbiote versions of Beetle and Butane. Peter instantly recognizes them and the suit that they are wearing. Peter gets flashbacks to when he took the suit off in the last film and realizes that it must have fallen into the wrong hands. Peter fights the two villains. However, if he didn't stand much of a chance before, he definitely doesn't now, and Peter's inner insecurities get the better of him. He overthinks every move, he overthinks every punch and kick, resulting in him getting absolutely battered down. Butane and the Beetle will come out on top very, very convincingly. However, just before they were about to take him back to Fisk, something starts to happen. Something starts to happen with their suits. They start to transform and lose control of themselves. You see, the symbiote can only be controlled by its host for a short period of time, and that's why it took a little bit longer for someone like Spider-Man, who is stronger physically and mentally. However, for the average everyday person, it starts to poison and take control pretty quickly. Beetle and Butane start to roar in a Venom-like fashion, and their attention is taken away from Spider-Man as they start causing destruction elsewhere. Peter looks up, seeing the fire and destruction around him. How could he let this happen? He is currently proving to himself that he isn't good enough. Peter stands up and looks on as the villains destroy some city blocks around him, and he runs away. Spider-Man runs away. And this is Peter at his lowest point. We cut to a scene between Peter and Carly as Carly wraps up bloodied and bruised parts of Peter's body, similar to the scene with Peter and Gwen in TASM 1. Peter says that he's not good enough, and now they have that suit, the suit that Peter took off at the clock tower. Peter thinks to himself that all of the events leading up to this moment are his fault. He could have changed these events, just reaffirming to himself that he isn't good enough. Carly will tell Peter not to be stupid. Of course she doesn't think he's a failure. Of course he is good enough. She holds his head up and will speak to him softly. When he first told her that he was Spider-Man, she didn't know what to think. She was overwhelmed with emotion. Her boyfriend was Spider-Man after all. Maybe it bothered her slightly, but when she thought about it more, it's admirable. He puts his life on the line to save so many people's lives. Not many people would do that. She will tell Peter that she will love him, and Peter will lock eyes with her and say it back. They hold their heads against each other. This scene in particular will be very important for the trilogy. Not only does it showcase what kind of character Carly is, especially in conjunction with her character from the comics, but also that Peter has the reassurance from people around him now, which reinforces his arc from the last 2 films. He has those people there for him. And then in the corner of their eyes, a fireball. Across the city, they both look to see Rikers Island in tatters. Peter looks at Carly and looks back to the fireball. He looks back to Carly again, saying he can't do this. He'll fail. With or without him, the city is going to fall. Carly tells him he can't think like that. Carly tells him that he's fought for this city multiple times for so many years. He can't stop now. There's no one else but him that can do this. There's no one else that could do this but Spider-Man, but Peter Parker. Peter hesitantly heads towards the window of his apartment, knowing what faces him, what faces the city. He has to do this. He's Spider-Man. Spider-Man swings over to the scene, and a bunch of other villains he's faced before also have the symbiote, including Scorpion, Hobgoblin, who is now the MCU's version of Red Goblin, Shocker, and Vulture, who I imagine after Secret Wars would have been transported back to the MCU. Along with Butane and Beetle, these villains make up a group known as the Symbiote 6. At first I thought it would be cool to do a version of the Sinister Six, but since Tom's version of the character has already fought something close to that in No Way Home, I thought I would do something a little different. Of course the battle will be fierce, and similar to the Rikers Island breakout during Spider-Man PS4, Peter will get battered down. However, it will be more violent and chaotic than in the game, as the symbiotes start to take over. Amongst this, Spider-Man tries to save as many people as he possibly can, but it's too late. The symbiotes are mass-producing and taking over, and this is when we are introduced to the idea of Symbiote City in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We then cut over to Carly, who frantically makes her way over to the Feast Center to help Miles. They stay strong as the symbiote population begins to grow. We cut back to Peter, who is barely still alive, but has enough energy to just about carry on. As the symbiote versions of Peter's villains head towards the city, Peter stands up and looks as the destruction rages on. He thinks there is only one man to confront with all of this, the most powerful man in the city. We cut to a scene of Peter confronting Wilson Fisk. Peter says that he knows they've had their differences, but they know they have to work together to stop whatever is going on. Fisk says whatever happens is unstoppable. What's in motion cannot be undone. Fisk sits down at his mayor's office desk after looking over the city that he once had control over. Spider-Man heads towards the desk as Fisk carries on speaking. He'll sit there and reminisce about the battle that they've had with one another over the years, about the fights that they have both endured, and about how both sides are as stubborn as each other. And Fisk will give his admiration for Spider-Man, saying that he respects him for that. No matter what Fisk threw at him, he got back up, reforming the reassurance that Carly was trying to instill in him earlier in the movie. But this time, it's coming from his greatest rival. Fisk will say to him that their time has come, and if one of them can't win in this fierce battle that they keep having with each other, then both of them will lose, as Fisk admits defeat, saying that soon they'll both die to the symbiotes, or become one of them. Spider-Man looks out to the city and looks back down at Fisk, saying he refuses. He refuses to back down. If there's one thing they can both agree on, it's that they don't want this city to go under, because without it, neither of them have a purpose. And with that, Peter, begrudgingly at first, then holds his hand out to Wilson Fisk. And after all the hard-fought battles, Fisk looks up towards Spider-Man and thinks for a second, before taking it, telling the webhead that at the very least, he's inspirational. And with that, Wilson Fisk joins Spider-Man's side to fight against the symbiotes. Wilson Fisk says he may know a guy that can help, And thus we are thrust into the final part of the film, where we are introduced to Alistair Smythe, a physicist who worked under Fisk at one point in his career. Fisk claims that he can work on a cure. They will meet with him in a secret underground bunker. However, they will have been followed, as someone breaks through the door. Peter turns to face them. It's Black Cat, with a symbiote. A massive fight between the two of them breaks out as Smythe whips out a prototype of the cure and hands it to Spider-Man. During the fight, Spider-Man releases the cure, and the symbiote retracts itself from Black Cat. Felicia and Peter reunite as she thanks him. However, she quickly stands up, realizing that she's in the presence of Fisk, reminding us of the story of Spider-Man 4 between the two of them. Peter calms her down, saying that they have bigger issues to focus on at the moment. And that's when he gets a call from Carly. He picks up and she says that she's at Feast and it's under attack. She needs his help. Peter and Felicia team up as they head to Feast. Peter tells Fisk to carry on working on the cure and to let him know the progress. Just before he leaves, Smythe hands Peter another vial of the cure just in case. Spider-Man and Black Cat arrive at Feast to find that it's under attack by symbiote Scorpion. Just as they did in Spider-Man 4, a fight between Spider-Man, Cat and the Scorpion break out. Peter, during the rematch, uses the cure against Scorpion as the symbiote once again retracts itself. And with that, Mac Gargan and Spider-Man have their first interaction since the end of the 4th installment. Mac thanks Spider-Man and Black Cat for saving him. Scorpion recognizes that the situation they find themselves in is a lot bigger than the feud that they once had, as he asks how he can help. Peter says to stay here with Feast and protect it at all costs. Peter and Carly reunite, as he tells her that the Scorpion will be staying here with her to help protect the place with Black Cat. I imagine a funny little interaction between Carly and Felicia here, as they're both people who have had romantic relations with Peter at one point or another. Either way, Peter will leave and will return to Fisk and Smythe. Smythe will say that he's mass-produced the cure. All he needs to do is to release it from a high enough point over the city to create a widespread effect, kind of like a bioweapon, similar to how Dr. Connors used the lizard gas in TASM 1. Smythe will be taken by Spider-Man to the top of the Chrysler building to install the cure. However, that's when they become under attack from two more villains of Spider-Man's past, Symbiote Vulture and Hobgoblin, who with the symbiote will now be Red Goblin. Spider-Man fiercely fights both Vulture and Red Goblin in an intense air battle, something that we've rarely seen in Spider-Man films before, which would be quite interesting. The villains will get the upper hand, as Spider-Man isn't used to fighting in the air as much as he is on the ground. They will constantly try to disarm Smythe to make sure the cure isn't ready to go, but Peter will just about come out on top in stopping them. And during the last dire moments, Smythe will activate the cure, in which it will be sent up into the atmosphere and in a mass spread over the city. Just as Peter couldn't hold on any longer, fighting both Red Goblin and the Vulture, the symbiote infection will finally be cured, and Spider-Man can breathe a sigh of relief. During the end of the film, the villains will be sent back to prison, and Wilson Fisk will be found to be behind the spread of the infection, and will be released from his mayor role, and will finally be behind bars. For how long though? Who knows? Peter will then stand triumphantly over the city. In the end, he was the right man for the job. He helped save the city. He doubted his abilities without the symbiote. He doubted if he himself could do this. When all the odds were stacked against him, and when the city looked like it was going to finally go under, and when it looked like that this was Spider-Man's greatest battle, Peter was the one to pull through, and the one to save everyone else. Spider-Man saved the day. Not only will Peter recognize this in himself, but so will the city. We cut to 6 months later as we come to the end of the film. Carly and Peter are happy in their relationship. Carly is coming to the end of her fashion degree at college, and Peter is almost finished in his degree as well. They both talk about their future with each other, as it looks like they potentially might be planning to move out together. However, Peter says he has to do one last thing, as he heads to Miles, who is now well integrated in at Feast. He takes him to the back room, and Peter says that he has something to tell Miles that he's wanted to tell him for a very, very long time. And Miles says something's happened to him as well, and he needs to tell Peter. Peter asks, what is that? And in a moment of utter surprise, Miles reveals to Peter that he has powers just like Spider-Man. And in a what the F moment, similar to how Homecoming ended, we end our final film of the college trilogy right there. Thank you very much for watching MCU Spider-Man 6. If you enjoyed this series, make sure to hit a like on it, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers. I would really love if we could hit that goal. On the left side of the screen, you can see my own Spider-Man cinematic universe that I've built entirely from scratch. And on the right side of the screen, you can check out my college trilogy for Spectacular Spider-Man. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, and keep writing stories.